All right, it's 9 a.m. on July 15th, 2026. I will now call to order this meeting of the St. Louis Board of Police Commissioners. Lieutenant Tully, please call the roll.
Commissioner Saraceno?
Present.
Commissioner Ortega?
Here.
Commissioner Jenkins-Gray?
Present.
Commissioner McVeigh?
Here.
Mayor Spencer?
Present.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
All present, sir.
Thank you. Okay, if you're able to, please stand and join me with reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Morning. Thank you all for being here. Again, our first item on the agenda is approval of our meeting minutes from July 1st of 2026. Do I have a motion from the commissioners to approve the meeting minutes from our July 1st, 2026 meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Ortega.
I'll
Do I have a
second it.
second by Commissioner Sonia Jenkins-Gray. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll call for a roll call vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, no opposed. All right, and change up the agenda a little bit. Normally, the chief is on the back end of the agenda, but good morning, Chief. I know in respect to your schedule today, we're going to have you join us first. Morning, Chief.
Attorney General, thank you for coming today. Just reporting out on the crime numbers, I always start with year-to-date murders. Right now, we're down from years past. We're at 68 year-to-date as of today versus 73 last year at this time, down 5, versus 88 in 2024, versus 91 in 2023, versus 95 in 2022, and versus 101 in 2021. So you can see each year we've gone down incrementally. Still way too high, but there's a lot of things that we're doing, working with our federal and state partners, and then working with the community, and the good work of our detectives, leveraging technology that you'll hear about today on some of the things on items and contracts. But working with them, we're at an 81% homicide clearance rate. It was reported a couple of years. The national average at 50%. It's even lower when it comes to an urban area like ours. So 81%, great work by our detectives, great work leveraging technology, especially with ATF and NIBIN, National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, picking up the shell casings, responding to the scenes through ShotSpotter, making sure we can render first aid to the people that might be hurt or injured, and then making sure when we're going there, we're canvassing the area looking for evidence, and then possibly capturing perpetrators or trigger pullers that are leaving the scene. So our officers are really executing that really well. We're going to make sure we stay on top of that within the CompStat methodology. But when it comes to CompStat, we not only look at murders, shootings, and violent felonies. We look at the things that the community is asking us about. One of the things that the community asks us to do is look at some of the quality of life crimes. And then what we do in CompStat, we measure them by a 7-day, 28-day, and a year-to-date basis. And then year-to-date right now, we're down 8% in overall violent crime. So that's murder, sexual assault, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, felony theft, and auto theft. So we're down 8%. We were down 43% since the same time last week. 28 days are down 25%, and as you can see each week, and then it rolls into year-to-date. And then I always look at 2022 when I talk about it. All the information that I'm giving to everyone here and those that are listening through public, slmpd/stats.org. You can go on our website, and then you don't have to wait for the police chief to come out and give you these statistics. They're right up there. Homicides are updated daily. CompStat's updated weekly. And then also we have crime mapping, where you can go into a specific area, geofence for 6 months, look at the crime that's happened in your neighborhood, with the exception of juvenile crime or sexual assaults. So I encourage everyone to do that. A more informed public, a better informed public is a safer St. Louis. 2022. So the new methodology comes in January 2023, so I look at
Excuse me,
22.
Chief, I'm sorry, but I think we have a pause for a stainless, a technical issue. Thank you, Chief, I apologize.
Sure.
Chief, please resume. Comment?
So I used the baseline of 2022 as coming into this methodology, leveraging technology, working with the department, internal legitimacy, getting external legitimacy, and the type of work that we're doing. We're down 41% in overall crime from 2022. And that includes 36% in shooting incidents, and almost 50% with juvenile shooting incidents. And as I said, we're down almost 30, 40 homicides from that time, where we were at the same time last year. We've gone down every year. More importantly, what are we doing throughout the city? But then we talk about where the money comes in, where we have tourists, we have people downtown, where our businesses, we want to bring them in, and we want them to stay. Our businesses were down 61% in overall crime since 2022. We've gone down every year. We're at 16% at this time. So we have diminishing returns, but we're going in the right direction. 61% in downtown, and we're building off of that. As you've seen, as a new academy class came out, we put additional bike officers downtown to make sure that we can have them and try to have that omnipresence, because that's what everybody's been asking for. Not just downtown, but throughout the city. Chief, please, where are more cops? We know crime is going down. We do have trust in policing. And you're going to see the trust in policing, because Zen City is going to give, and they measure and they do surveys to the public out there where we've been and where we're going, and building public trust. And they'll go, I'm not going to steal their thunder, but I have taken a look at some of those things. And I didn't want them to come out right away. I wanted to do over a period of time of measurement on how we're doing as a city. And actually, they're going to show some things, and when they get into it, you'll be able to ask your questions. We're all going the right direction. Always got a lot more work to do, especially with crime, especially when it comes to public trust. But that leads into people coming forward, working with the police, working with the city, and making sure that it's not acceptable for crime. Also, I want to just talk about, having a new circuit attorney that sees every case, that makes sure that people are being held responsible, accountable when officers make the arrest, working with our Attorney General's office in the state, and also where I'm going to be going, where I have to leave in a few minutes, that I'll be going out to do a press conference with the Department of Justice and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, that we work very well with our Crime Gun Intelligence Center, and we work with NIBIN. We look at getting trigger pulls off the street, and then since 2022, we're down about 4,000 shots fired calls from when we were then. That's 4,000 calls because of the work we're doing up front, leveraging this technology. And when we're down critically in officers who are doing a tremendous job, we're down to 853 officers, where we're down almost 400 from where we were several years ago. And I want to thank the board for the raises that they gave, because we're starting to get people in the pipeline. We're starting to get the fast track. We're starting to get our own HR, so we're not encumbered by some of the rules that the city used to have with civil service laws, that we can get more people in, call them immediately, because we have to change our business model, and we can't wait several weeks to call a person back. We got to call them back immediately, and that's what we're doing. Sarah Koziaki is doing that job, and now being attached, and not attached, but assigned specifically to the police department to prioritize those things. And we're starting to get people in the pipeline. 125 people showed up, a body showed up, 80 were left in the process after background checks, and of course, they start to filter out as we do more things in that. And we're going to do another one. And we'll hopefully be able to put another class in September, and then shortly after that, the following month, and then we're going to continue to do things to try to bring those ranks up. But that raise has helped to make us competitive, both for the police officers, the sergeants, and also the command staff, that compression issue that we dealt with, that was sorely needed, and I appreciate the board being able to do that. When I talk about downtown, we also talk about downtown West. That's right here. That's a soccer stadium. That's Union Station. That's part of also the entertainment district. We're down 50% in overall crime from where we were 4 years ago. We continue to drive crime down. And if you want to go across the corridor, if you want to go to Midtown, where it breaks into Central West End, Midtown is down 35% in the last couple of years. And then Central West End, which is also a business corridor, that's down 51%. But crime's down, basically, we have 88 neighborhoods. You can break these statistics out by neighborhood. You can take a look at it. You can go back to 2021, and you can take a look at it for yourself by neighborhood. And I encourage our commanders and our officers to use use this at these community meetings. And if we are up in crime, to make sure that we know where the crime is happening, what are we doing, and we have a plan to deal with it, working together with our partners in the community. So I talked about 853 officers. That's where we stand right now with 19 in the academy class, and then hopefully we can bring more in the pipeline. We've slowed down attrition, and hopefully we bottomed out, and we're going to start going back up. So those are promising signs of where we need to be in the future, but let's remember, it takes about 18 months to get a police officer on the street, fully trained on the street. So what we do now is going to make such a difference in the years to come, but then we got to continually do that. I know you're going to hear from Zen City. You're going to hear about, that's public trust. You're going to hear some of the things that we got to work on every single day. But you're going to hear from ShotSpotter. I believe in ShotSpotter. I believe in what it does and what we can do when we're leveraging it and using it right. You're going to hear studies out there, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work on its own. There's an Inspector General's report that came out of Chicago that a lot of detractors use that it says he said it didn't work. They didn't tell the rest of the story. The Inspector General said it didn't work because the Chicago Police Department, which I used to work with, was not leveraging it the right way, the way we're leveraging it here in St. Louis. They weren't picking up the shell casings. They weren't getting the turnaround with the minimum required operated standards when it came to how you use NIBIN machines. And you have to do it within 48 hours, and we do an incredible job with our lab. And then the last thing, what we talk about, public trust and communication. We take that very seriously. In other police departments that I've been in, the communications public affairs officer is one of the most important people in an organization. One of the most important. They should be part of the inner circle, part of every conversation that you're having to make sure that they can talk internally and externally. And we have Mitch McCoy's here. And I want to make sure that people understand his role and how important I think his role is and how he should be treated. How he should be treated. He should be treated with some respect. Because I think he's pretty incredible in what he does. And the reason is he's telling our story, not to make up stories, but to tell our story, to make sure he gets the facts out there to counteract any other story. If we're not telling our story, we're going to talk about the bad, the challenges and everything. But he's going to put those stories out. And when he does do that, he checks with the chief of police. He doesn't do this on his own. He checks with the board. So anything that Mitch does and anything Mitch is doing out there is with my authority. And he runs that by me on everything. So if you're going to get upset with Mitch, then you better talk to the chief, because I own it. I'm the leader of this organization. So therefore, if anything happens and there's a problem with what Mitch is doing, please talk to the chief. I'm here to talk about it, or talk to anyone else that you want to have me have a conversation with. We need to be able to be respectful in our organization, and be respectful to the public, and that's what I asked to happen. All right. So with that, I'll open it up to some questions.
Any questions for the chief? Chief, I know that you're tight on time, but a couple of questions. I know just for the help of the board a little bit, there's some technology and tools that we are going to have discussions about a little bit later. Can you just speak a little bit more to the importance of the necessary tools that are available to this department that we can help with?
You should always be measuring yourselves, and how do you measure that? I also measure public trust. You have to, if you don't get to the community, Zen City's doing that. So they're getting feedback. I measure public trust to the amount of complaints that are being made against our officers. Are they going up and down? And then secondly, I measure it in the amount of our clearance rates. I talked about an 81% homicide clearance rate. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens to trust in not just policing, but the whole criminal justice system, people coming forward. And those are the type of things. But Zen City will go out. They'll make sure they do these surveys to the public. You can ask the specific questions. If there's things that you would like in there, they could talk about the parameters that they're doing in LA and other places to measure that. I think it's pretty incredible that they're going to be coming here today to explain the investment we made in them to make sure we can look at it. And then, you're always hearing pollsters out there and everything, but this is our contractual pollster that we can do, and it makes sure that you can look at it, you can question the stats, you can take a look at it, you can break it down by neighborhood, by city, and then today they're going to be working with the commanders, and tomorrow they'll be working with everyone, including myself, to understand how we can use this tool to make sure that we continue to build trust and also address the issues that the community is concerned about. We need to hear their voices, not just at community meetings, but through this type of survey process. The other thing you're going to hear about is ShotSpotter. I've talked about it. The Inspector General, they just were not using it right, and I've heard this over the years when it came to surveillance technology the last several years in front of the Board of Aldermen as far as trying to remove and/or restrict us in the use of some of the surveillance technology. And I did talk about the Inspector General. When you have a thing like ShotSpotter, most of the cities, and including this city, when you measure it, people only, if it's not a non-fatal shooting or a homicide, people are only calling the police 20% of the time. So if they're calling the police 20% of the time, unless we on view it, hear it, or someone's calling the police, we're not responding. So people think we don't care. We don't care, and that's just not the case. Everybody thinks someone else is going to call because you don't have a non-fatal shooting and/or you don't have a homicide, God forbid, a homicide. But when 90% of our murders by gunshot in the city, we better take that pretty seriously. And that the officers get out to 100% of the shootings in those areas. They do the canvass. They look for the evidence I talked to. They render first aid because our officers are trained in doing tourniquets and have saved many lives. It's not anecdotal. I can go through many, many examples. And these officers are doing a tremendous job going to that and getting clues, videos, and then, there's stories of we cleared homicides because we responded to a ShotSpotter that a person might have had some celebratory shooting. And that's not anecdotal either. There's several stories of this. And then what happened is we had a homicide where it turned out the same shell casings were at the celebratory shooting. We went back, did a canvass, and that person was wearing the same clothing as a person that we didn't have a lead other than clothing. And then the homicide detectives were, once the NIBIN came back, the match happened, the correlation happened. Within one day, they identified who the suspect is, and they had an arrest in a couple of days. They still had to do all their due diligence and good investigative work. But it gave them the lead we needed, that a person that's going to take a life or be a trigger puller is now off the street because of something like ShotSpotter. One life saved is what we need. And some of the times you could be detractors about ShotSpotter. I'm going to tell you, I'm a big believer in it. I think it's well worth the investment, and you're only talking $75,000 a year. And it covers about 6.6 miles in our city. So those are the things that we're doing. Those are the things that we're going to talk about that, unfortunately, I'm not going to be here. I will try to come back immediately if this meeting's still going on, sir. But at this time, I have to run off to the Department of Justice.
We appreciate that report. I just wanted to make sure that as we review these next upcoming tools, that we're getting more, advice from
Thank
you
you, sir.
as far as making a good, educated decision. Any further questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Our next item is our new business. We're going to, the first item on the new business is a resolution awarding a bid for PeopleSoft upgrade to Aspire. The director of our IT department is here to tell us about the upgrade. Mr. Gorman is here. You can approach the podium. We would appreciate that.
Morning.
Morning.
The main thing here is that our PeopleSoft system is currently 2 substantial versions behind. We've been trying for several years now to get this upgrade completed. That's the core of this RFP. In addition, we have a request from HR for talent acquisition candidate gateway in order to streamline the hiring process. And then we have financials, which was requested by Budget and Finance.
So we're looking at HR, budget, finance, correct? As
Correct.
well. Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Gorman? You got to fill up pretty easily right now. So let's see if you want to stay up here, or if you can return to your seat. I'm going to have Lieutenant Tully read the resolution regarding PeopleSoft software.
This is resolution number 2026-35, whereas the St. Louis Board of Police Commissioners has determined it to be in the best interest of the board to adopt the following resolution, and whereas the board previously adopted a procurement policy for the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, which requires competitive bidding for procurements in excess of $100,000, and whereas the department currently utilizes PeopleSoft Human Capital Management application version 8.9 and holds PeopleSoft licenses for the General Ledger, Accounts Payable, and Accounts Receivable modules of PeopleSoft Financial Supply Chain Management Suite. And whereas the department has determined it is necessary to upgrade its PeopleSoft HCM application to version 9.2 and to implement the PeopleSoft FSCM suite in order to improve operational efficiency and implement additional modules and applications, including COBRA and FMLA administration, talent acquisition manager, and candidate gateway and FSCM. And whereas the department issued a request for proposals on June 19th, 2026, seeking qualified bids to provide PeopleSoft Upgrade 9.2 and implementation services to the department. And whereas the department, in accordance with the purchasing policy, advertised the RFP in various publications, including but not limited to the St. Louis Daily Record, the City Journal, and the department's website. And whereas the RFP closed on July 6th, 2026, and the department received 6 bids. And whereas the department has reviewed the 6 bids received in response to the RFP and found the bid submitted by Aspire Consulting LLC to be the lowest and best proposal, and recommends the board authorize the department to enter into a contract with Aspire Consulting LLC. And whereas the bid submitted by Aspire Consulting LLC reflects a first-year cost to the department of $1,957,760 for the PeopleSoft HCM upgrade and $1,696,800 for the PeopleSoft FSCM implementation. The second and third year costs of $783,104 and $783,104 respectively for the PeopleSoft HCM upgrade, and $678,720 and $678,720 respectively for the PeopleSoft FSCM implementation. Be it resolved, the board awards the bid for RFP FY 2026-0005 for PeopleSoft 9.2 upgrade and implementation services to Aspire Consulting. Be it further resolved that the Chief of Police is hereby authorized and directed to enter into a contract with Aspire Consulting pursuant to the terms of the RFP FY 2026-0005 for PeopleSoft 9.2 upgrade and implementation services in the amount set forth in the bid submitted by Aspire Consulting.
Thank you, Lieutenant Tully. Hearing the resolution, do we have a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Sonia Jenkins Gray, second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ortega. Is there discussion regarding this?
I guess my only question would be, is
Yeah.
there any hardware or is this just software?
This is just the software. The hardware component is pretty insignificant. The servers themselves are all virtual, so they'll run on existing hardware stack.
Okay. Yeah, because usually, sometimes you upgrade something, the new one.
Yeah, in
wouldn't
this case, the
support it.
hardware is already there.
Okay.
I do have one question. Oh, sorry. Commissioner, go ahead.
Question, within the upgrade, have you included within this cost training, on-site training for users, et cetera, or how is that built in?
The training portions are included in there.
Okay.
And the only other question I had was that it says 9.2 version, and you mentioned that it was 2 years behind, so does that?
2 major versions behind.
2 major
Yes.
versions behind. So this 9.2 puts us in a good position.
It puts us in the current.
Okay. That was all that.
That's going to be my question.
Very good. Any other questions?
Yes, just one other question. Within the upgrade from, on the HR side, you mentioned the talent acquisition module.
Yes.
Do we already have, say, for example, the performance management modules and other HR-related modules, or would that be in addition to this if we decided to go that direction?
That I would have to look into.
Okay.
I know talent acquisition and candidate gateway were the 2 explicitly listed modules.
Okay.
So I have the motion was carried by Commissioner Sonia Jenkins Gray, second by Commissioner Ortega. We've had discussion. We'll move to a vote.
Commissioner Saraceno?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner McVeigh?
Aye.
Mayor Spencer?
Present.
4 ayes, 1 present, sir.
Motion carries for 1 present. All right, we'll now move to our next agenda item, a resolution to approve certain agreements. The board has 5 agreements that we are considering today. Mr. Sullivan is here. We'll call him up to the podium. Mr. Sullivan with the Budget and Finance. He's here to answer questions. We'll discuss each agreement, and then at the end, we'll consider a resolution authorizing the agreements. Mr. Sullivan, welcome. Good morning. And
The
please.
first is an amendment with Sound Thinking. It adds Phase 5 to the total package we have. It's for the Dutchtown neighborhood, $75,000. Intelligence did request this in their fiscal 2027 budget.
Thank you.
The next is a contract amendment with Motorola. It's a 5-year amendment. It helps, it keeps our Astro 25 system in place. Radio Repair did ask for the full $843,146 in their budget. but we only received $447,911. So we're gonna have to do a budget transfer in the amount of $395,235 to get the funds together to pay for this year.
Thank you.
The next one is an agreement with Integrated Technology Partners. They're a support unit for the current PeopleSoft system that we have, $250,000. IT did request this in their budget. The next is a sales quote with Eagle Technologies. It's recovery and storage software for the IT division. They did request this in their budget also. And the last is an agreement with TransUnion. It's an investigative tool used by the fraud unit and intelligence for looking at cell phones and things like that for $9,924 a year, and they did request this in their budget this year.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sullivan? I know for the commissioners, there is a yellow fiscal note in your binders this morning that outlines each of these expenses. So it's clearly on what we are spending per item here, so that was, thank you, outstanding work to make those upgrades to our package. Our board secretary, Lieutenant Tully.
I do have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Under the Integrated Technology Partners, you said 250,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because this says 200,000 in the.
Oh, I'm sorry, 200,000. I don't have my glasses, sorry.
Okay.
200,000, sorry.
It was say 50,000 right there. Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Sullivan? Seeing no questions for Mr. Sullivan, Lieutenant Tully, please read the resolution.
Before I read the resolution, I just want
Yes.
to correct something. The yellow sheets were from our communications director, Mitch McCoy. That was his idea to make it more visible for everybody. So I just wanted to thank him for that as well.
We'll take both credits. Thank you very much. Mitch, appreciate it. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
This is resolution number 2026-36. Whereas the St. Louis Board of Police Commissioners has determined to be in the best interest of the board to adopt the following resolution, and whereas the board has reviewed certain contracts, agreements, and memorandums of understanding at its July 15th, 2026 board meeting, and whereas the board approved the agreements which have been attached here to as Exhibit A, and authorized the Chief of Police to execute the agreements on behalf of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, and be it resolved that the agreements attached here to and incorporated herein as Exhibit A are approved by the St. Louis Board of Police Commissioners, and be it further resolved that the Chief of Police shall be authorized to execute the agreements attached here to and incorporated herein as Exhibit A.
Thank you. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution approving certain agreement? Commissioner Brown is going to make the motion to approve these agreements. Do we have a second?
I'll be second.
Commissioner Ortega, do we have discussion regarding these agreements? You did such an outstanding job. You again, got off the hook.
Without your glasses, too.
Right, your glasses. So, well, we have a first by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Ortega. There was no discussion that was called on, so we're going to ask Lieutenant Tully to please call the roll.
Commissioner Saraceno?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins-Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner McVeigh?
Aye.
Mayor Spencer?
Present.
4 ayes, 1 present, sir.
Motion carries. Thank you. 4-1. Okay, we'll move to our next item agenda, which is the Zen City presentation. I'm going to ask Mitch McCoy to come up prior to Zen City to do a quick introduction and bring us up to speed. Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mayor, Attorney Breville, Lieutenant. So last year, we entered into an agreement with Zen City. This was a project that had started prior to the board's existence. So Zen City, and I won't steal the show from the Zen City folks, but the chief touched on it, and it talks about the importance of community partnership. And it is hard at times to gauge the sentiment of what some of the significant issues are facing neighborhoods, especially with social media and the loudest voices, the keyboard warriors. So what this program does allows us to break down, even by district and by neighborhood, what some of the biggest issues facing our residents are. And so there has been some really interesting insight, and I was actually speaking with Major Marisi about this. We've been monitoring the data as it's been coming in, and Zen City might mention it as well, but we were a little skeptical at first. You know, how real is this data? How accurate is it? How timely is it? And it really hit home in December or January, when we saw the sense of safety in District 6 drop between December and January. But in that same time period, the listening category and the police responsiveness category increased. And we started looking at that data and what may have resulted in that sense of data drop. And it was the murder of a mother and her 9-year-old daughter, Paige Buckner, in their home in North City right before Christmas. Their home was set on fire. So there were a couple things that we gained out of that. One was people's sense of safety did drop in District 6 because of that horrible act of violence in our community. But what we were doing, what we were saying, and how we were responding had hit home with many of the individuals living in that district, and it meant that we were responding appropriately. They will be able to dive in to some of that specific level data. I will say some of the key highlights that Zen City is going to share is that people's overwhelmingly sense of security, that sense of feeling safe, is hit the highest level so far this year. It's incredible data. And we're at that 1 year mark, so we're just now at that point where we can start measuring it and we have something to compare it to. One thing that the chief also mentioned, and I'll reiterate, is that people want to see more police officers. They want to see more of a police presence. And so as a police department, we can help make recommendations to you as a board that will directly come from some of the data that we're receiving through Zen City and through some of that data that's coming through. Zen City will share, and they'll give you a couple comparisons to other cities. This is something that commanders will be in training this week on actually as early as tomorrow morning. All of the commanders, the captains, the majors, the lieutenant colonels, they will have access to this. They can break it down by district, they can break it down by race and by gender, and they will be able to deploy resources using some of this data that is coming in to help respond to some of the sentiment that they're receiving. Major police departments use this, including the Los Angeles Police Department. They've actually incorporated it into their CompStat data, along with Phoenix PD, Philadelphia PD. There's some state police departments now that are getting in Zen City. So it's really great. I don't want to take up any more time. Unless there's any questions for me.
I do have a question, just because it's important to the board, because I'm sure we'll hear from
Yep.
Zen City, but I have a question for our department, which is what we worry about here, is that, we're big about accountability and ownership. Is this a tool, a measurement, an opportunity for us to make sure that our department is being accountable and being measured in a way that we are using it, not to skew the statistics or skew the information, but this is direct information that we can use to have a better department for our communities?
That is a great question, and yes, on all fronts. This is something that we are going to be able to incorporate into our data, and we're able to measure to see if we can start hitting some of the benchmarks. So instead of responding to a comment on social media or something on Nextdoor, because we have a lot of keyboard warriors, we're able to respond to people who we know are in the city of St. Louis. And Zen City will be able to go through the verification factor that they use. It's through social media, so it's a survey that comes through. What's also great is police departments use this tool to help gauge possible technological rollouts prior to its existence. So a police department can say, we are interested in launching XYZ program. And we can actually ask the community about that program before we even roll it out to see if it's something that they would want and what neighborhoods we might need to do a little bit more work in to get people a little bit more comfortable. So it is absolutely an accountability tool that we will use on a regular basis. And the sampling data that they collect is pretty wide across the city.
Great. Well, without further ado, let's bring
Yes.
up the folks from Zen City.
And I will let Zen City introduce their entire team. There's quite a few people, including a former police chief who has been involved since day one on this.
Great. Good morning and welcome.
Morning, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great to see you, the commissioners, mayor, Georgiano as well. My name is Eyal Halamish. I'm the vice president of account management at Zen City. I oversee about 350 accounts that we work with nationwide. And I've got Chief Rahinsky here to introduce himself as well.
Good morning. We appreciate the opportunity. Dave Rahinsky, as Mitch alluded to, retired police chief who used the Zen City tool. We're here to share a little bit about it.
Thank you.
Awesome. We've got a couple slides just to share a little bit about ourselves, who we are as an agency, the work that we've been doing with the organization just in the last 10 months. So it's an initial set of results and just some initial highlights that we've pulled from the data itself. Again, this is just the very first step. As you go into the second and third year, you start to see data that you can compare year over year to actually make some decisions off the back of that valid sample. We'll talk about the program specifically tied to the data-driven community-aligned policing, which is the accountability model that we build into the training that we provide for law enforcement agencies. And then finally, just some of the next steps that are happening today, tomorrow, and in the coming months. Just off the bat, Zen City, our main mission is to power the work of government using community voice. So we are pulling together information from across our communities that we work with and making sure that that information is fed up to decision makers. And in the law enforcement space, our main mission here is to make sure that we provide a statistically valid sample on a regular basis that law enforcement agencies can be held accountable to and can also improve their performance with regards to increasing trust and performance as an agency. A couple of the agencies we work with were named. As I mentioned, we work with 350 agencies nationwide, but some of the key ones in this region, Cincinnati Police Department, the Philadelphia Police Department, Minneapolis Police Department, there's a number of agencies that pull this data on a monthly basis and are using it as an accountability mechanism and also as a performance management tool. One of the main things that we look to tackle is that when we're going out there and trying to get public sentiment, public feedback, we know that the data that we're collecting is already skewed, right? They're long, costly processes. We either get the same individuals that are coming on a recurring basis to our public meetings, or when we go out there and try to collect information, the response rates that we're getting on phone surveys and other methods are dropping to all-time lows. Only about 3% of individuals will actually respond to a phone survey, and so our mission is to make sure that we're increasing that through our methods, and also making sure that we're getting to the average persons living in the city of St. Louis, so that they're giving us their input on how they would like to see the agency perform. Jump to the next bit. 3 things that we're doing here. One, reaching as many individuals as possible across the city on a regular basis. We then pull that together and map it out so that it's statistically representative and something that we can understand and then inform the decisions that we're making as an agency. And that's that final bit of actually taking action with those decisions informed by the data that we've collected. A little bit about our partnership to date. In the last 10 months, we've collected about over 6,000 responses since September 2025 Those are responses that have been collected. They're rake weighted using a methodology that our survey methodologists and our ad technologists apply. And every month we're providing about 600 of those responses weighted so that you can actually look at those across the agency. This is a snapshot that you're seeing here on the left of just the demographic breakdowns for the last month when we did in the month of June. You can see that the light blue column on the left is really the sample that we collected. The dark blue is the census data that we're weighting this against, and the gray is the ultimate result that we're sharing across. So we're making sure that whatever sample we collect, we're slightly adjusting it to make sure that it meets the census data, and then for the most part, they're pretty close in just the collection process. If there's any adjustments that need to be made, they're done. But otherwise, you're getting that statistically representative sample at the end. When the average resident in St. Louis is receiving this, we're using a team of ad strategists on our team who are actively pushing out digital ads through a range of tools, whether that be through traditional social media digital channels, but also any ad channel that's happening anywhere across your community. So if someone's playing, Candy Crush and they get stopped, they have to reply to an ad that's come through, or if they're reading the Bible app in Spanish and they get prompted with an ad at the top of that prompt, whether they're normally receiving ads for other things they might want to buy, in our instance, they're providing an ad that's for them to complete a survey very briefly on their smartphone or something else. There's an example of an ad right there that you're seeing on the screen that's being distributed on a regular basis. And so people are voluntarily choosing to respond to the ad and click through and complete the survey. We know the average person, once they've started the survey, we get a very high completion rate on the survey from end to end, and that's why we're increasing that rate on a regular basis. Yes, Commissioner, you have a question?
I'm probably too old to be asking this, but you talk about geofencing. Do we know where these people are coming from, or does it matter as long as they're within the St. Louis area, county, city?
It's a great question. So 2 things. We do target specifically within the parameters of what is St. Louis, and also people will double verify. So they'll also respond with providing their zip code, and we'll check to make sure that that's within the area. And that's how we're able to identify if someone's within this area or someone's passing through. The ad networks themselves, we don't run the ad networks, but they will target ads based on where a phone is sleeping that evening. They do that for a range of other things. We're literally just procuring a service to help get the survey links out there.
Thank you.
Just a quick snapshot of the questions we're asking. So we do have a set of questions that have been designed looking into procedural justice. So we want to make sure that we're looking at the procedural justice framework, and specifically how do people feel with regards to sense of safety, how safe do you feel in your neighborhood, fairness, providing the same quality of service to all individuals, respect, treating local residents with respect, voice, are they approachable? And you can see some of the other questions there. And then we also have a rotating section where beyond the standard questions we're asking across other agencies and nationwide, we do have specific questions that we might adjust or customize for a specific location. So we have some additional questions around overall performance, crime data, and also changes in violent crime, because that was an issue that was popping a lot more in this area. Just a couple of highlights from the data. I won't go into all of it, but as was noted, we do have a sample set that we've built now and that we'll continue to build, that we can mine and pull information and insights from on a regular basis. But our sense of safety has been pretty stable at 50%. We like to see stable data over time that's staying around a similar number. And then, of course, once we see that stable data set, we can start to work with it and see what kind of policies, resource deployments, communications efforts can be put in place to start to move the needle on that number. Of note, the tragic double homicide that happened in this community in December, we can see that on the right, just a breakdown in District 1, where despite there was starting to be some increased sense of safety around the winter months, there was a significant drop just after that. Similarly, you see in the Black or African American demographic a significant drop just after that December incident. Sometimes we do see some variances in the timing of how long that drop starts to happen, just based on different demographics and locations. That being said, since that drop in District 1, we're seeing that there's been a gradual increase back up to new highs in that district, up to that 53%, or in your Black African American community, that significant drop, and then gradually coming back up to about 45% sense of safety there as well. Just to give you another snapshot on gender, because the tragic homicide, we do like to double click and understand how is this affecting specific demographics that were affected there. Clearly it was a mother and a child. We can see that the pink line, from February onwards, a bit of a lag effect, but starting that dip really happening where sense of safety drastically going down to an all-time low in April, and then now bouncing back in the last few months. We also see that sense of safety initially with the male demographic, and then the female demographic having a bit of an echo effect after that. But just to give you a snapshot of what's possible with the data set, being able to break it down by gender or demographics as well. Last bit of data just to share with you, to give you a snapshot, and again, happy to answer questions about this as well. What's interesting is that despite the crime numbers going down and violent crime going down significantly in this community, we're seeing that the perception is actually that violent crime has gone up by about 30% of the community, and we can see which parts of the community are specifically flagging that they feel that violent crime has increased. Again, this opens the question of what are we doing from a policy perspective, but also are there communications efforts that we can be having around which areas are still very dangerous and having violent crime, and which areas have we actually moved the needle and we should be more effectively communicating with residents in that area. And this is something that we're sharing now, and also with the agency to start to move the needle on as well. Last thing I want to share from the data set is that we do ask some open text questions around what's the one thing that you would like to see the police department do to make you feel safer in your neighborhood? And this is an open text response. So you're seeing some of those broken, we pulled out some of the district comments that we're hearing from residents in this community, and we use a technology to actually aggregate that, to put it into themes based on the words that people are using. As you can see, the top 3 elements here around violent crime, property crime, and then traffic enforcement being the top 3, and we can see some of the subcategories for that as well. Again, month over month, quarter over quarter, we can see, are we, in other agencies, we'll look at these open text comments and see what can we do to move these things up or down based on what we're seeing come through. Just with regards to the next steps, we run a program alongside this data set, which is kicking off today and tomorrow, which is what we call our data-driven, community-aligned policing initiative. It was actually pioneered by Chief Rahinsky in our agency when working with a number of agencies we realized that it's all well and good to have a data set, but what do you actually do with the data, which is the question that, Commissioner Saraceno, you asked that question as well. We want to make sure that this data is applied and that we have command staff, we have captains actually looking at this data and using it to make good decisions with regards to their patch. So this program is really around strengthening those officer and community relations, improving their satisfaction of seeing that it's not all bad news out there. There are interesting insights and compelling positive feedback that we're hearing from community as well. How do we elevate the morale of the department? How do we make sure that we're aligned to our community's priorities? And also ensuring that we enhance public safety through this model. The model really is twofold. One, training people on the data set, making sure they have access to it. And then two, incorporating into some of the existing meetings, including the CompStat meetings that are held. We'll see in most other agencies where our crime data and also our sentiment data are looked at alongside each other, and then decisions are made based on that data set. We'll jump to the next, which is just this. We could jump to the final piece. That's the point just about the structure of accountability. You're seeing on this image, that's a CompStat view of another city agency. That's actually LAPD there, where you can see they're pulling up multiple data sets, looking at specific areas where they're seeing high levels of crime or dips in crime, and they're looking at sentiment data alongside that, and then again running an accountability process on the right where we're identifying the issues and making sure they're provided to the right members of the team. This afternoon, we're going to be briefing the police department's executive team on this data with a little bit more granularity. Also, we'll be doing a command staff briefing tomorrow, and we're also training captains, crime analysts, communications, and engagement teams on the data sets, and starting to talk through what are they, how does this incorporate into their recurring meetings, and also their plans going forward. But happy to take any questions or comments on that as well.
And I'm just going to interject just a little context. As you heard at the top of the meeting, the chief shared how significantly crime is down in the city through the hard work of really everyone in this room and the men and women of the department. A lot of agencies are content to declare success just at that drop. But great departments recognize, in addition to crime stats, is public perception. Do residents feel safe? Do they trust the department? Regardless of where they live in the city, if they have to take the dog out at 3 o'clock in the morning, do they feel comfortable? If they're driving in the city and they see that they're getting pulled over, are they confident that they're going to be treated with trust and respect? And measuring this and breaking it down the way that was just shared with you allows the department to ensure that that's exactly what is happening. So while reducing crime obviously is the goal, ensuring that residents feel safe and trust the department should be the measure of success. Is there any questions that we can answer for you?
I just have a couple. Do you rate us? I saw some of the names at the bottom, and I would imagine we're not rated against the Colorado Springs because we're a little different scenario there. But do you take the cities that are much like us and say, here's where you are, here's where they are in this process, and when you sit down with the executives, are you going to say, do you know best practices that they're doing that we can always hone and get better? Is that going to be part of it?
We do, sir, and it's a great question. So we look at cohort and national scores. So in addition to just giving you raw data, we can compare you to cities with similar demographics. We can compare you on a national level, and as you alluded to, we can share best practices that we're seeing amongst other departments across the country.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So how do you get your numbers that go up with returning, because you're at 6,000 people, you had 600 people that so far this month. How do you get that number to grow?
So we actively only want to get about 600 per month to maintain a consistent sample that we're collecting every month on that. That is the target, and we weighted that based on the population size of the city. We do that across every city. We'll look at the population size and say what's the right amount of sample to get so we can get a representation.
So you're hitting your target then?
And we hit our target, yeah. So we're hitting that target every single month, and we've never missed, any city we work with, we've never missed sample on that monthly basis.
I would imagine 10% is a pretty good number compared to some things I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Two questions.
Yes.
The diversity of that sample. I know you said you put out ads, but I guess that creates your diversity of the sample that you're receiving.
Yeah.
Through the ads.
So we know that we can hit over 90% of the population in the city of St. Louis. In some regards, it's probably closer to 95%, and that's just based on the demographics that we're looking to hit. we make sure that the sample is watertight so that at the end of every month, you can look at that sample and say, have we hit the right demographic breakdowns? If there are any gaps, we'll speak to our survey methodologist team and our technology team to make sure that they're either pushing out additional resources to get the sample that we need, or if not, we'll compensate for that in the next sample set that we collect.
Thank you. And then the other one, just as a person with surveys, how long does that survey usually take to complete?
Yeah. At its quickest form, probably about 2 minutes. At its, someone who's a real laggard, maybe about 8 minutes, but we're seeing averages of that 2 to 8 minute mark where someone should be able to complete it. And that's really what we aim for, is that someone can complete it on their phone with a couple clicks of the button.
Is it implemented through social media? Is it on?
We-
If I missed that, I apologize. but-
We use digital ad networks, so we're distributing a survey link to it is a digital ad, so it is appearing on your smartphone or on your computer, but it's distributed to digital ad networks. Sometimes that means that an ad might pop up on a social network, but it might also pop up when you're playing a digital game, or if you're reading the local news, an ad might pop up. If you're reading the Bible app in Spanish, it might pop up, or it comes up in the language that's the phone is set to. So if your phone is set to Spanish, it will come up in Spanish. If it's set to another language, it'll come in that language.
Very good.
Good stuff, great.
Just one more question.
Oh,
I know
sure.
this is a majority of the city, but we obviously want to have a vibrant city. We need people from the county to come in and spend money, if I could say that without being, so we want everybody to come in. So this isn't just for city, this is, people to feel how they're safe to come in to St. Louis. So we're looking at that too, right? Not just city?
Yeah. We focus on we use the shape files, the locations that are provided by the city to look at the city. There is the opportunity to ask questions and to even, ask additional surveys that would target a broader demographic if we wanted to do that. We do that in some other agencies where we're able to ask questions of,
Mayor,
a broader
that would be
set.
something you'd want to know, is it? Mayor, that you want to see what county people to come down here too and spend money on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that maybe we ought to look at that down the road.
Yeah, happy to discuss that.
Very good. Seeing none, thank you for your time, and
Thank
thanks for
you.
coming into St. Louis today. Appreciate
you.
it.
Of course.
Very good. No action needed on that. We'll move to our next agenda item, number 8. I would like to welcome Attorney General Catherine Hanaway to be here this morning and would like to address the board. Good morning, Attorney General. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mayor, members of the commission. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. So let me introduce the people I have with me briefly. Right here is James Lawson, who is Deputy Chief of Staff and right now Acting Chief of Staff while mine's on maternity leave, and he's doing a great job. Jane Duker, who really is one of the leaders of what I call the Vice Squad, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Kelly Reichert, who many of you have had some experience with, who works on a lot of the St. Louis Police Department cases. And one row back is Isabel Bryson. So if you see our social media and you think it's good, it's because we have 23-year-old Isabel Bryson doing it, and she is awesome, really awesome. That's all right. Just leave it there. Yep, great. So I want to talk about just a few things this morning. Number one is to express my gratitude to all the people in this room for what you do to keep the city safe. Serving on the board, being mayor, being a member of the police department, none of those are easy jobs. And you all do them with courage and skill and ability every day, and it is very much appreciated. It is really one of the great honors of this job that we get to represent the department, and I'll talk a little bit more about those cases in a moment. I want to just share briefly with you kind of what I'm trying to achieve as Attorney General. Like the governor, my number one priority is to reduce violent crime in Missouri, and particularly the city of St. Louis. Gabe Gore has original jurisdiction over all the violent crimes, all the property crimes. Obviously, the police department is who catches those criminals. So as I looked at what can I do to impact violent crime, we do have jurisdiction over things like merchandising practices, which sounds kind of, well, what does that have to do with crime? We have original jurisdiction over gambling crimes. And as I was looking at root causes, like where's the money coming from? that fuels the drug trade, that fuels the ability to buy weapons, that fuels people congregating around certain sites, I concluded that a lot of it was coming from illegal gaming and illegal drugs. And therefore I created what I call the Vice Squad. Like, that's kind of an old team, and it's not a moral crusade. This is let's get to the people who are funding crime, who are making huge amounts of money that is completely untaxed. We think the illegal gaming trade in Missouri is $1 billion cash business a year. And so we went after the illegal slots. Of the 25,000 illegal slots in the state, we think we've shut down to date about 17,000. That's what Jane is very involved in at a number of levels, and we have a number of lawyers involved in it. The other thing is, I say illegal drugs. Some of the worst drugs that we've gone after and that are having a huge impact have been legal until very recently. There's this drug called 7-OH, which is a synthetic opioid that's derived from kratom. You could buy it over the counter. Coroners in Missouri have told us they've had 161 overdose deaths from 7-OH. We have gotten the 5 largest sellers of 7-OH in the state to agree not to sell in Missouri anymore, the biggest of whom was a company in Kansas City called American Shaman. Big part of the problem was not only was this being sold just like at gas stations, many people call it gas station heroin. The FDA says it's 3 times more powerful than morphine. Lots of kids were buying it. And so we were happy to get that largely shut down. And last week, very good news, the FDA finally scheduled it as a controlled substance, which means now Gabe and his team can prosecute people for possession, for dealing. The next thing is the illegal sale of cannabis, right? We have legal cannabis in Missouri, right? Fine, great, selling through dispensaries. Unfortunately, we've identified almost 500 stores that don't have licenses that are selling on it, and many of them are problem spots. Working with the city's problem properties section, with the police department and our Vice Squad, we were able to shut down Easy Vape downtown, which had been the source of maybe as many as 1,500 calls for assistance to police in a single year. Think of all the calls that they could have been responding to instead of Easy Vape. So we're continuing to work. We've sent out cease and desist letters to 30 of those stores. We continue to work through the list. We're trying to go after the worst first, the people who are just selling cannabis out in the open with no license. But the other ones that are really terrible are the ones who are selling the products that are targeted at kids. So they look like Doritos, they look like Skittles. I honestly, and I am working with General Mills and others, I don't know why those companies aren't enforcing their trademarks. Like, the packaging looks exactly like their products. And part of what they say is, well, it's coming in from China and we can't really get to the manufacturers. We did shut down Pressure STL that was selling a lot of those products. But we continue to work on the illegal drugs component. And then the final one, which is the newest one, is to go after some of these buildings that are public nuisances. And we have had, in my opinion, and I'm old and I've been bumping around this community for a long time in a lot of different roles. I think at this moment, we have the greatest level of cooperation between the governor, the city, the police department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the agencies that the chief just went to talk to, the police board. I think we have a moment here where we can do a lot of good. And I said some things I wish I could take back the other night on Channel 4 about the city not moving fast enough on Mark Twain. We need to all be working together. And so that's going to continue to be my objective. We need to get that building shut down, and we're going to. The guy says he'll shut it down. He hasn't lived up to his word to me or anybody else. It's bed bugs, it's mold, it's drug dealers, it's uninhabitable. We also have to work to relocate the citizens. We don't want to just take the criminals who are in there and move them to some other spot, and we're working on that. We're working with the private sector to do that. Finally, it is my honor and our office's honor to get to represent the police department in these cases. We've been doing it for over 100 years in Kansas City and did it for a long time here in St. Louis and then took a break. Just to give you some sense of the caseload and what a serious responsibility it is for our office. In Kansas City right now we have about 12 active cases. In St. Louis we have more than 80. It's a big caseload. We are working through it as rapidly as we can, but our number one priority is to make sure that we're representing the department as well as we possibly can and the individual police officers as well as we possibly can. Any man or woman who chooses to put their life at risk to protect the rest of us deserves the very, very best from our office. And it is my commitment to you that you will get it every day. And so with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Do you have any questions for Attorney General?
I think first, I just want to thank you and your team. I mean, it's been great working with everybody that you have on your staff. Kelly, I mean, we sit in meetings on Friday. I look forward to Friday. I think it's a great meeting, a lot of information. I want to thank you very much for all the assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah, I agree. We've when we recognized the amount of caseload that was in front of us and being able to get it into buckets and get it to move forward because it was just kind of stale and it was heavy on our department. It hurt our morale of our department, which then it hurts retention to the department. And so what one of the goals is to treat everybody with respect within this organization. Sitting on a case that has no resolution towards it or anything moving is not in the best interest of the men and women of this department and within the organization. So thank you for your work for kind of helping us get things organized and into a direction that at least we can move towards some resolution.
Thank you,
We
and
do
thank you for
appreciate
being
that.
such great partners. And Chris, thank you for everything. We obviously deal with Chris and his team and the department every single day. So we're pleased to do the work, but thank you for acknowledging it.
Absolutely.
President Zarazino.
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney General Hanaway, thank you for your comments, and thank you for recognizing the important role that the city plays in these actions. And thank you for your partnership on that front, and recognizing the great work that our nuisance team does do with the very, very limited resources that we have. Many in this room know Sergeant John McLaughlin, former city police officer who is instrumental in that work and does great work, now is a city employee outside of the police department. And so I want to thank you and your office for working with him and recognizing that public safety does rely on other departments, namely the building division and other critical roles that participate and are necessary in closing down nuisance properties. And we will continue to work on those issues as well as the vape shops that we have been partnering with your office and the police department to address. I also want to recognize the long work that it took to get us to the MOU that has resulted in the AG's office leading the settlement discussions and leading that settlement work. And while the city, of course, is on the financial hook for those settlements, and we do have to agree to them, we do take the recommendations of your office and the hard work of your attorneys to get those settlements. And so in those cases, while we do agree to that, I want to thank you for making those recommendations to the city of St. Louis and providing that work.
Yeah, and as you know, Mayor, you're an experienced professional leader, lawyer. The city is our client. We spell that out in the MOU on the cases where you are primarily the client. We can't settle anything without the client's permission, but we do make a recommendation. And, there's been a lot of talk in the last 24 hours about a particular case. I went back and looked at everything last night just because, there was so much kerfuffle over a $35,000 settlement. Our lawyer said he was ready to try the case, wanted to try the case, but was recommending to the city that if we could resolve it for $30,000 or $35,000, that it reduced the risk that there would be some huge jury verdict. And we absolutely made that recommendation. The city took the recommendation and we resolved the case. Did it leave a great taste in anybody's mouth? No. I think everybody would have rather have tried that case, but you roll the dice in front of a St. Louis jury, and we all know it could have been hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in that case. And so to get rid of it for $35,000 was the very best judgment on behalf of, that we could recommend to you, and I think the best result for everybody involved.
Well, we appreciate your recommendation, and as you know, as everyone knows, we did accept that recommendation and settle, but really appreciate you recognizing the role that the Attorney General's office played in making that determination and that recommendation in that case. Thank you.
Glad to do it.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you all very much, and I'm so sincere about thanking you for serving on the board. Yeah, I know it's super tough work, and St. Louis deserves the best, and I think they're getting it from you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your hard work.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is announcements, so I will again open up to the commissioners. Is there any announcements from any commissioners? None. I want to end by saying, I know governing and leading is not easy. Tough decisions get made, and it's easy to sit back on second, third opportunities to judge a situation. And so we understand that, we recognize that. As we move forward, we continue to put the best interests of the city of St. Louis forward. Attorney General, you made an excellent point. There are a lot of pieces of this puzzle in place. The puzzle's on the table. It's our job to get a nice, beautiful picture together. And so working collaborative and cooperative with all the parties is important. Moving forward with our best interest at hand, and that is the city of St. Louis, the residents and the visitors and the people who work and live and play in the city. So that has always been our goal. It will continue to be our goal, and it will continue to take cooperation and collaboration from each and every one of us, not only in this room, but outside this room. So, and again, always, as I'd like to say, is thank you to the men and women who put their uniforms each and every day on to represent us, community, in a very positive way. So thank you all very much for attending. I know I always don't like to get to this one. Does our board attorney have any comments?
Just a few notes. When I get my binder out, I just want to say, General Hanaway, thank you for making this board and the situation a priority as we go through this. You have given us the best resources. Kelly, fantastic. Jane, fantastic. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Solicitor General and Lexi and Bill. They are fantastic partners to work with. We talk to them almost every day, and thank you for the support because it's been fantastic. That's it.
Yes, thank you, Chris. You know, Mr. Revelle, you know I'm just joking. All right, we're going to move into executive session. I'm going to ask Commissioner Sonia Jenkins-Gray to read the motion to go into executive session.
This meeting, yes, thank you. Thank you, President. This meeting has provided notice of the board's intent to go into executive session. The board can go into executive session under RSMO 610.021, legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys. And secondly, RSMO 610.02113, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment, except that this exemption shall not apply to the names, positions, salaries, and lengths of service of officers and employees of public agencies once they are employed as such, and the names of private sources donating or contributing money to the salary of a chancellor or president at all public colleges and universities in the state of Missouri, and the amount of money contributed by the source.
Thank you. Is there a motion to enter into executive session and adjournment of the meeting pursuant to RSMO 610.0211 and RSMO 610.02113?
So moved.
Commissioner Brown, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ortega. Motion. Let's call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Cersino?
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins-Gray?
Aye.
Commissioner McVeigh?
Aye.
Mayor Spencer?
Aye.
All ayes, sir.
Okay, motion to adjourn and go into executive session is complete. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.